Welcome to another week of Gems of War. This week we have the Invasion event on PC and other platforms except for Switch. This is a tower style event where you're going to try and kill some towers. So ultimately you're going to try and advance through these, get all of your towers till eventually you're fighting nothing but towers. They always give you a fun troop to actually fight the towers with. So we'll review that in a little bit. Hopefully you had a good Guild Wars week last week. As far as what's in the event chests this time around, it is Draxzoom troops. There's actually a couple mythics sitting in the Draxzoom kingdom here, so if we go and sort, you'll see that if you're looking to open up event chests, there's actually a lot of pretty high value troops here that you would want. Unfortunately, one of the mythics is Foul and Valdis, which is actually not good. This mythic is not good, so if you're rolling event chests, you're hoping to actually get this guy. Obsidious is very nice because if you get a 4-5 match, you stun everybody on the board. So that's really nice, does some really good damage, and actually gets you some mana generation. So this troop is actually pretty high value. I'd put him near the top of the mythic tier list. Certainly not top tier, but also still very, very good. So worth opening event chests if you don't have them, and just pray to God you don't get Foul and Valdis. Glaceon is also in the event keys, which is actually one of my favorites, if not my favorite troop. Extremely strong, so hopefully you can get him. Really strong skull reduction there. An ability to transform gems, do Doomskull transformations as well, and free somebody. So if you don't have Glaceon, I definitely recommend opening event keys for him. And King Bloodhammer is also someone who's very nice. When an enemy dies, you summon a Doomstorm, which if you have a skull bashing kind of lineup, this is going to create just tons and tons of skulls raining from the sky, so you could just chain them completely to death from Doom Skulls. Extremely good. He also does really solid damage himself to 2 enemies, which is a nice little perk, and then he turns everything blue into Doom Skulls. So if you look at these two troops side by side, this person's actually turning all reds to Doom Skulls, but turning yellows to blues. So you can quickly see how these two troops kind of play with each other. If you cast Glaceon and you make a ton of blue on the board, he sets up King Bloodhammer to turn all those blues into Doomskulls. So these two can trade pretty effectively. A common build with these two guys would be like a Mountain Crusher weapon at the top with Wrath sitting underneath them to convert brown gems and yellows to skulls, and then using Glaceon and using King Bloodhammer. Those 4 in a lineup together is just a very common Guild Wars blue match team. So lots of cool stuff in the event chest list this time around. Just pray to God you don't get Foul and Valdis. She's just really not good in any capacity. Cool looking card, but just not a very good one. But these 3 are very, very strong. So good luck to you if you are opening up your event chests. As far as the new things that are released on PC and other platforms minus Switch this time around, the event weapon is this Blackfire Cannon. So he's just your normal dealing triple to 5 times damage to tower type troop. He's doing 28 damage to a enemy, and if it's a tower then you're doing lots of extra damage. He has this little side perk that 30% chance to deal 28 damage to a random enemy. It's not entirely clear to me if that will also be boosted 3 to 5 times. If it is, then this event will be pretty easy. Every single time you fire him off, it's possible you might hit 2 towers for a ton of damage. So that could be pretty fun if that's actually the case. And then of course he has the Siegebreaker final trait, which will deal 3 to 5 times skull damage to towers. So normally you see if you can try and build a lineup where this person will be sitting at the top of your lineup. So if you catch any random skulls, you'll be breaking towers with that super skull damage there. I do not recommend that for the earlier tower levels. Like, this is something where once you have the final tower levels, once you're having 4 towers that you're fighting, that's when you want to put this guy in the top, so that way there's a tower in that first slot, so you can start immediately doing that triple to 5 times skull damage there. The other troop, which I'll open up the game to show you because for whatever reason the website's not working, is this Cursed Effigy. So this is one of these troops that I don't really like, which is you explode a single gem, and then for every purple that you catch in that explosion, you're cursing a random enemy. So if you imagine that you explode a spot that has 4 purple gems around it, then you should be cursing most of the other team, if not the entire other team. Then you gain 20 armor and 10 gold. There's nothing great about this. The fact that it gives you gold seems to imply that they would want you to put this in more of like a rogue lineup where there's a lot of gold-based traits there that they play around with. As far as his actual traits, he has skull reduction, so again, they're seeming to imply he should be in like the first slot. I don't really like this though. I'm not seeing anything super awesome about this. This is just fine. Curse is pretty strong. It's nice that it dispels positive effects and then makes them vulnerable to just getting more debuffs for longer periods of time. So that's okay. Like, it's nice that you can potentially curse a lot of people, but the fact that it only explodes a single gem makes him not all that useful. So, okay, I wouldn't put that as a very good troop all that much. So then jumping into the event weapon this time around, and I will learn my lesson and make this bigger so you can actually see it, is the Stone Slicer. So again, they're still releasing these weapons, which are creating a mix of gems based on the number of construct allies that you have. So again, if you're building a lineup of 4 constructs or 3 constructs, then you're going to create a decent amount of mana as a result of that, and it does some damage. So for the event, this will of course be good, but for normal day-to-day use, I do not see this getting all that much use. So nothing too exciting there. So then jumping over to our Switch brethren here. So they're getting new troops as well. So they have Igneous this week. Igneous is their tower, or I'm sorry, this is their, okay, so you guys have a Godslayer event. So you guys are doing, not the invasion, you guys are doing the boss killing stuff, the raids. So for your raid troop, you have Igneous, who's 28 damage to an enemy. And again, he's doing 3 to 5 times based on their ascensions. So if you just leave him at base, he'll be doing 3x. If you get him to legendary, he'll be doing 4x. And if you get him to mythic, he'll be doing 5x. And then he transforms all red to brown gems. So that's not so bad at all, actually. What's nice about events is that you're normally going to be having a weapon like Mang up in your top slot, potentially Trickster's Shot if you have it, or Earth's Fury if you have that. Something like Mang, for instance, is going to require red and brown, which will fit nicely with this guy converting all reds to browns. So if you're leaving this troop in like your 2nd, 3rd, or 4th slot and you put your hero in the 1st slot with a Mang, he's going to guarantee that you're getting brown. If you're doing an event, I would strongly recommend that your hero class would be Titan or Sentinel. I don't think you have Sentinel yet on Switch, but if you do have Titan on Switch yet, you know, you get those barriers when you do browns. If you got your class up to level 40 so far, so then that's a nice way to kind of push deeper into the event, is leaving your hero in the top slot with something like a Mang, and then just keeping barriers on them constantly. With a troop like this, that'll actually make it pretty easy since you're generating browns yourself. He has Stone Skin, which would reduce skulls by 50%, so this would seem to imply you'd want to put him at the top of your lineup. So if you do have the Trickster's Shot weapon, that would actually be better, or Earth's Fury weapon, that would be better than Mang this week for you guys, because you would want to put him in your top slot since he has more survivability to take skulls back, and then he could also be doing triple to 5 times skull damage to bosses. So if you're doing the event this week, definitely consider how you want to use him. If you have Trickster's Shot or Earth's Fury, you'd want to put him in your top slot. Otherwise, if you're using Mang, I would still probably recommend putting him as like a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th slot and putting your hero with Mang in the top slot running Titan class. Overall, a pretty solid troop actually from an event perspective. The other troop you guys got is Tygra. So basically what they are is just pure mana generation and annoyance. So for him, he's creating 5 red gems, and then he explodes a bunch of gems, and then there's a chance he summons himself again. So you basically put this troop in your lineup if you're just looking to get some mana generated. He'll just explode the board, create some gems. Overall, he's not super useful. He's more just super annoying if you're facing him, because he could just keep making more of himself. If you don't have any other troops in your lineup that can make mana, like by exploding the board though, he's not so bad. You can definitely build lineups with Tygra in an early game, so I would not sneeze at the fact that he exists. You guys also get on the Switch the Flammifier weapon, which is actually really good. I'm very jealous of you guys. When I started playing, this weapon was already gone. but you have an opportunity to grab it now, which creates 10 red gems and deals some damage boosted by red gems. You care about this because of this creating red gems and the fact that it does some level of damage. Since you guys got Sunspear this week as well, there's a very, very common Sunspear team which is using the Flamer Fire weapon in the first slot, using Yao in the second slot, using Queen Titania in the third slot, and then using Taipan in the fourth slot. That lineup is extremely common and extremely effective on defense. So if you at all have an opportunity to get this weapon this week, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you get it. It's one of those weapons that I wish I had that I unfortunately do not. So if you're on the Switch, please make an effort to get this weapon if you at all can. It's extremely good and something you'll be using for a long time to come. Sticking with the Switch people, you guys also got some other fun stuff. So you got my favorite class, Sunspear, this week. I actually put out a video earlier last week talking all about the Sunspear class, so if you're looking for an advanced guide on kind of what the Sunspear is and what they can do, please check that out. But again, this is the best PvP class you can possibly get. This is not an event class, it's more of a PvP based class, so if you do have any interest in checking out what the Sunspear can do, I'll link to the other video in my description, but definitely give them a chance. They are the best PvP class. I say that pretty confidently. So you unlock them by going to the Pride Lands and doing the quests there. The other mythic troop that you guys got was Sunnah, which I do not have, but she is pretty solid. So what she does is that she steals life from the 2 weakest troops. So normally this won't be 4, this will be something much more interesting than that, like something like, I don't know, I would guess 14 to 20 some odd. Stealing life from 2 enemies, so she's healing herself and she's dealing true damage to the enemies that she's hitting. And then she steals magic from the 2 strongest enemies. So here, every time you cast her, she's getting bigger, the enemy team is getting weaker from taking the true damage from the stolen life, and she's getting a lot stronger because she's stealing 8 magic from 2 enemies, which means she's gaining 16 magic every time she casts. So it's kind of one of those scaling troops where if you leave her in like a 4th slot and you have your team doing all the fun stuff above you, she can just kind of be a cleanup troop that's just getting beefier and beefier at the bottom there while the other team is just struggling to kind of keep up. As far as her actual traits go, fairy firing a random enemy when you're matching red gems, that also fits in a Sunspear lineup really, really well. Since you'll be matching red gems constantly, you'll be fairy firing the enemy team very constantly as well. So overall, a really strong troop. Unfortunately, one that I do not have, but if you are at all interested in her, she's going to be in all of your event chest, or not your event chests, your glory chests, your gem chests, your VIP chests. If you're on the Switch, that's going to be where you find her. For PC folks, that's not the case, but for Switch folks, she's in those chests. So definitely worth chasing if you have an opportunity to get her. Congratulations. Beyond all of that, so this week on PC at least, we're getting lots of battle crashers. So there's, basically when you're doing your PvP fights or your explore fights, there's going to be those random troops that pop into your games, and if you kill them, you get a little bonus. So that's going to be constantly happening this week. If you look at Terran's World, it's actually just happening constantly. There's like 4 or 5 different battle crashers this week, which is kind of new. Normally we don't have that many. But yeah, there's 1 battle crasher, 2 battle crasher, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, literally every single day this week there's a different battle crasher that's going on. So that's pretty random. There's really nothing else happening as far as events on the PC side this week, so it's really just the tower event that we have to worry about. But that is pretty much everything that is happening this week. So thank you for tuning in. I wish you the best of luck in your various events. Switch folks, again, remember to get that Flame of Fire weapon if at all possible, and I do strongly recommend that Sunspear class. For PC folks, it's a pretty, standard week for us. Nothing overly exciting beyond all of that. So thanks again for tuning in, and best of luck in your activities this week. Talk to you later, guys.